The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
14:20 in the morning, 14 minutes and 20 seconds worth of sports talk to get you through your daily commute. Hot takes, recaps, best bets, and a little humor to get your day going in the right direction. Sit back, grab your coffee, and let's get into it. All right, 14:20 in the morning for this 20th day of January 2020. Today's show is, as always, brought to you by SeatGeek.com, the SeatGeek app. Use promo code 1420POD at SeatGeek.com today and save yourself $20 on your first purchase over there at SeatGeek. Remember, we are part of the Belly Up Media Network. Go to BellyUpSports.com for all their great articles, great sports articles, and other great podcasts. Craft Brewed Sports. The guys over at No Credentials Required, which I watched this morning with Ryan, and great show this morning, by the way, Ryan. If you're listening to this or watching this later on, and all the other great shows we have, the Corner Booth podcast, and my guy Vince Stover at the Sports Stove podcast, and everything else got going over there. Thank you very much to everybody who listens to our show on a daily basis or watches on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel later on today or whenever, and tell your friends to do the same as well. I've been away for a while. I haven't done one of these solo shows for a few days or a couple of weeks, actually, when it comes down to it. Got that new gig going on with the WCBL team here in Lethbridge. We're trying to get the 25th anniversary merchandise out and get game day operations, and it's got some exciting stuff happening around the ballpark that we're planned for the upcoming season. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that. For those of you in the greater Lethbridge area or wherever you may be, if you're listening right across North America, wherever you are, maybe go to our website there at lethbridgebulls.com. I think that's what it is. I probably should learn that since I'm kind of part of the whole organization now. But make sure you go there and maybe get yourself a new hat or a t-shirt that we got designs coming up that'll be up on the website next week. But anyways, the NHL. It's Hockey Day in Canada here. It used to be a much bigger thing right across the airways than it is now. Maybe I'm just because I watch a bunch of different things that I'm not just tuned in to the NHL as I used to be, and that just says something about what I'm going to talk about today. But we have the Jets and Senators, Leafs, Canucks later on today, and then of course the Battle of Alberta is happening with the Oilers and Flames getting her down tonight. That Leafs Canucks, little aside here, that gets people out in Vancouver a little bit ramped up because that game starts at 4:00 local time, and people are usually used to the 7:00 local time game start. And there's a lot of people who don't like it, but you hear the other side of the story where people actually like that game start time because you can go have a couple of beers before the game, then you still have the whole night to yourself to go out and do some stuff after the game. So I think that 4:00 start time on a Saturday afternoon, I think that's almost perfect time for a hockey game to start. And then you're actually in bed a lot sooner. Like me and Deanne joke a lot about when why can't there be concerts start at like 5:00 or 4:00 in the afternoon on a weekend? Because if the concert starts at 7, the opening band's going to start. Then the headline band won't get going until about 9:30, 10 o'clock. By that time, Brent's ready to hit the sack and ready to hit the old fart sack and call her a night. So having the 4:00 start time, I think it's a great thing for Hockey Day in Canada out there in Vancouver, and the people can enjoy the rest of their night or go do something else. Even like they can go to another hockey game, a junior game, or whatever else they might want to do that night. So it's I think it's a good thing personally. But people in Vancouver, they're a finicky bunch. But anyways, as you're watching these teams go on, there's 32 teams in National Hockey League right now, and now they're talking about expansion across the National Hockey League, probably going to 36, and then there was even talk about getting to 40 teams. But right now they're talking about going back to Atlanta, which would be an absolute disaster. They've tried that twice before. They had the Atlanta Flames in the 70s, and then they lasted about 82, I think it was, when they moved to Calgary, and that's where they are, obviously, where the Flames are now. They're talking with another team in the Greater Toronto area. I don't know if that's the best of ideas. Yes, you have a population base in the Greater Horseshoe of 6 million people and all that is, and everything else, but I don't know if you would ever get enough people to break their Leafs fandom and to not be Leafs fans, and that would be a tough sell for a lot of people to all of a sudden start supporting a new hockey team. I know you have like in New York, you have the Rangers, you have the Devils, you have the Islanders, but those are in 3 distinct different markets and 3 distinct different areas. Whereas in Toronto, I don't know if you would have be able to break that those barriers down, those borders down by just inserting a new team there. I don't know if that's the best idea, if it would work, because people are diehard Leaf fans out there, and the media's diehard Leaf fans. And I don't know if you'd be able to break up if the Mississauga Leafs or the Mississauga Arrows or whatever it might be if that became a thing. I don't know if that would work out very well either. Another place that's getting a long look is Houston. Some deep pockets out there. There's already a building there where the Rockets play, but there's a bit of a discrepancy there. But who would be the main the lease and everything else? A lot of business and a lot of lawyer speaks getting involved in that one. So I don't know if that's the best thing. And they had a long time. The Houston Arrows were there for a long time. I think Gordie Howe actually played there with his two sons. It went back in WHA days. So that's a long time ago. But then they had a minor league team. I was watching a show the other day that they were talking about the Houston Arrows when in the AHL not that long ago, and they were playing in front of 14 or 15 fans. They said it didn't go over very well. Yes, the professional hockey landscape's a lot different from minor league hockey to the National Hockey League. So you would get a lot more looky-loos, and people go into the game maybe, and it would work maybe for a year or two. But I think the luster would wear off pretty quick, because once again you're going to a scenario where you already have the Dallas Stars. Yes, there would be an instant Dallas-Houston rivalry. I get that, but I don't know if that would be the best of ideas for that. Another team that's getting a little bit of a look is Salt Lake City, but now Salt Lake City is rumored to be, if they can't get it straightened out in Arizona, which they still haven't gotten that deal done, they might end up with the Arizona Coyotes moving to Utah. So that one's kind of on hold. And then the fifth one that they're talking about is the Quebec Nordiques ending up having a team again in Quebec City, or whether it be the Nordiques again. I don't know whether I don't think you couldn't call them the Nordiques. I think it's just one of those things, like when Winnipeg got back from Atlanta or moved from Atlanta, so they didn't get back from Atlanta, but they be the Atlanta Thrashers, when they failed again in that city, they ended up going to Winnipeg. I think you had to call them the Jets no matter what. So if there was another team to end up in Quebec City, I think you would be obligated to call them the Nordiques. I don't know if that would work well either, because all of a sudden the Nordiques have been away for a long time. Yeah, you would probably have the same boost and the same fan base and the same, but I don't know if you would have the same passion that people in Winnipeg have, because Winnipeg didn't have it. There's nothing else really going on in Manitoba, so they were not forced to. But that's a team that they could call their own for the entire province. Whereas the Nordiques have been gone for 20 some years already, and all of a sudden you have a lot of those people who are Montreal Canadian fans. I don't think they're going to change their allegiance to the Canadians, or from the Canadians to the Nordiques. I just don't think it's going to work that way. It's just one of those things. I don't know if going there, yeah, you would have that boost. Yes, it'd be good for the economy. But you remember, like, the biggest rivalry that you had for the Nordiques was with the Montreal Canadiens. And the thing about rivalries back then is you had a lot more teams or players that would stick with their teams, and they wouldn't have a situation where they were moving free agency and on it goes. So you wouldn't have that instant rivalry. I think, yes, maybe the fan base would have it, but there was a definite hatred between the players of the Canadiens and the Nordiques, because that was an instant thing, and the players stayed there for a long time. And so that hatred grew over the years. You look at the Battle of Alberta, that was the same way. Both those teams came to the league at the same time, basically, and that was city to city. There was a definite difference between Calgary and Edmonton. That's why there was that rivalry back then. They played so often, and they had great teams that met in the playoffs year after year. And Edmonton always won, except for in '86 and '89, where the Flames prevailed. In '89, the Flames actually ended up winning the Stanley Cup that year. And who can forget the '86 Steve Smith goal that stopped the Oilers dynasty a little bit, put them a little bit of chink in their armor. But yeah, like the rivalry, I don't know would be instantly reignited between the Nordiques and the Montreal Canadiens. I don't know if the NHL, personally, I don't think the NHL is really ready for an expansion. Yes, the owners would want another expansion to go from the 32 that they have now to 36, because they want more American markets involved, because that's where the money is. And then you look at Atlanta, they want to go back to Atlanta again for the third time, which would be an absolute disaster again, I think. But it's one of those things. Atlanta has, I think, the 6th or 7th biggest TV market in the United States. So that brings a lot of money in, and on it goes, right? And all of a sudden, these expansion fees are going to be the better part of $1 billion to get a team. You look at the Ottawa Senators, they were just sold for $950 million for a mediocre hockey team. And that's mediocre at best. They aren't even mediocre. They're bloody well awful right now. And you don't know how much money is involved in that TV market and how that all works out. But you look at what an expansion fee would be now. It would be the better part of $1.2 billion to get an expansion team, and that money gets spread out amongst the 30 teams that aren't Las Vegas and that aren't Seattle. So that's going to be a big chunk of change for the other 30 owners that would get get a percentage of that each, right? So it's a lot of money involved in there, and you get in some bigger TV markets. So I understand on the business end of things why the NHL would want to expand and get things going, but I don't think the NHL is could be honestly be prepared to have a team, any more teams get in the league, for the simple fact is there's just not enough players. There's just not enough quality players. The league, I think, is watered down as it is. You have a bunch of nondescript teams, a bunch of nondescript players already skating around the ice, going up and down. We talk about it all the time here at 1420 World Headquarters, that you got a lot of players going up and down the ice, the exact same players doing the exact same thing on every team. And there aren't that many teams that are very good. And it's you have a lot of mediocrity right across the National Hockey League. Like you go right down to the goaltender position. Like you just break it right down to there. There's not enough goalies in the league right now that are any good. Like there's just not. So to add another 4 to 8 teams in the next 10 years, I just can't see it being done. There's just not enough quality hockey players that should be allowed to call themselves National Hockey Leaguers. And that used to be an honor and everything else. I mean, it still is an honor. You make the National Hockey League, but now you get guys that just aren't good enough. And I don't think the league is prepared to expand anymore. Yes, it's more of a global game. Yes, you're having a lot more American kids coming up, and a lot more American kids getting drafted, and European kids getting drafted high, and everything else. But there's just not enough quality players across the league that are ready to take that next step, to make a team and to make a new fan base interested. It's just because now you even look at how the expansion deal went from Las Vegas to Seattle, how they changed the rules. And yes, Vegas went to the finals in their first year, and that's been for all in all a 100% success as an expansion team, winning the Stanley Cup last season and everything else. And the fan base is huge there, and they get great crowds and everything else. But it is Las Vegas, and they have a marketing scheme, and it does work. And not every city can offer what Vegas has. And this is one of those things. Expanding the National Hockey League, I don't think is a very good idea. Like you even look at something that I just thought about this. You already have teams that aren't getting players as free agents, and now you're having teams losing draft picks, guys that have been drafted because they just don't want to play there. So you're gonna tell me that if a team's in Houston that's gone 10-72 or whatever it might be in their first year, you're gonna have some kid that's out of college saying I want to go there, and he'll say no, I'm not going there. Or a goaltender saying, hey, do you want to go play here? He say no, I'm not going there. They stink. You already have kids saying I'm not going to establish teams with the Philadelphia Flyers and that Cutter Gauthier kid. So I don't think expansion right now is the right idea. Yeah, the money's there. Yeah, the money's huge, and I get it. I totally understand that on the business side of things, but on in general, the league is watered down. The league is not that good as it is, and and it's right across the country. I think viewership is down. I shouldn't say for sure, but there's less buzz year in year out about the National Hockey League, and forcing it down people's throats. Yes, you'll have the initial buzz of a team going to your area, but I don't know if it's going to work. I mean, it already doesn't work in Phoenix. Like, and it hasn't worked. They're still, they got to get that mess figured out before they go anywhere else and try something different, because you're already playing in 4,000 seat arenas. Like they're getting they're getting smaller crowds in the PW, the Professional Women's Hockey League, which is doing very well, by the way. I just finished watching the New York Boston game that my man Luca's at. He went to the game today. He said the crowd was really good. The crowd looked really good from what I saw on TV there. But anyways, like they got to get that mess figured out there. And you already have another irrelevant team basically in Anaheim who's been around for a long time, and players that are saying, "Gee, I don't get drafted there," because they have a tight pockets and everything else. And they're already thinking about trading guys like Trevor Zegras, who was supposed to be the next coming of whoever you want it to be, not a Timo Solanyi or a Paul Kariya, as I was about to say. But Zegras was touted to be like one of the next great Ducks, and they're already talking about getting rid of him. That there's teams that just are fiscally responsible, and I get it because they stink and they're not good and they have no hope in winning. Right now, like me and Dave talked about the other night, we talked about there's only 4 or 5 teams right now out of 32 that actually have a legitimate shot at winning themselves a Stanley Cup. And adding more teams is only going to water the whole thing down. Like I would get rid of teams. Go back to 21 like it used to be. There was nothing wrong with that. Or go to 24 and have the East and West division have an equal good deal. But then you have too many teams making the playoffs, right? So that's a thing, that when you had 21 teams and 16 were making the playoffs, that wasn't a good thing. So if you missed, then you were quite bad. So it's one of those deals. But I just having an expansion, it's not good for the quality of the product on the ice. Yes, there is money. There's going to be money. There's going to be rich guys seeing that they can make more money somehow, some way, that don't really care care about the on ice product at all. And at the end of the day, it's the fan bases that end up getting hurt, and it's the fan bases that end up suffering a little bit because ticket prices will go up, and because they always do. Ticket prices never go down, no matter what, no matter how bad a team is. The ticket price doesn't go down, and it's one of those things that maybe the National Hockey League and Gary Bettman, yes, his job is to work. He works for the owners, and his job is to find other revenue streams and ways for these rich guys to make money. And one of the best ways to make money would be just to get a simple expansion fee, because an expansion fee, like I said, is $1.5 billion or 1.1, 1.2. Like, if you got to think that the Montreal Canadiens are worth how much money now? Like, if the Ottawa Senators went for $950 million, what are the Canadiens and the Maple Leafs worth? Or the Rangers, what are they worth? So you look at what like it's only going to add to the value of these franchises. I understand it, like on the business side of things, and it makes complete sense on the business side of things. But for the rest of for hockey fans and for the game in general, the integrity of the game and everything else, it would be I think it would be an unmitigated disaster. Like, I think it would be an absolute train wreck if they went and expanded to any more teams in this league. They got to find a way to get the teams more competitive. They got to find a way to get goaltenders. They got to, like, if you think about this, like, one of the best goalies in the league right now, still at his age, is Marc-Andre Fleury. And he's going to play 30, 35 games a year. Like, you aren't going to see many guys with that kind of pedigree ever again. And if he's one of the best in the league still, then you got a major problem moving forward. Like, he's they're talking about him going to the Oilers at a trade deadline if he decides to get rid of his no trade clause. And I think it would be a good move for the Oilers to go and get a guy like him and not be a backup, but be a 1A 1B kind of deal with Stuart Skinner, and having that team, because that Oilers team's flying, obviously 12 in a row. And it's crazy to think 12 in a row that they won, or 11. I think it's 12 right now. They're at those Oilers teams that were high flying back in the 80s there with Gretzky, Curry, Messier, Fuhr, Coffey, and blah, on and on and on it goes, that they didn't win 11 or 12 in a row. We were kind of laughing about that last week. We were looking at when they were at the 10 game mark, like, how could those teams not have won 9 or 10 in a row? But I remember, like, there was actually on this day the other day where they lost 7-1 to the Toronto Maple Leafs back when the Leafs were really bad. Back it was 82 or 83 last Saturday on this day. But yeah, it's one of those things you just wonder, like, what's the NHL thinking product wise? Like, it's not getting better, it's only getting worse, and adding more teams and adding more players that just aren't good enough to a league that's the top of the top league in the world, and watering it down. It's a bad move. It's a great business move, but for a sports fan, I don't think it's going to work. I don't think it's a wise decision. I think it would take more fans, like traditional fans, away from the game. Yeah, you'll have your diehards no matter what, but you're going to start losing guys, vintage Brent Radlinski, 49, 50 years old, who are thinking, you know what, this isn't my NHL. I know that they don't care about me watching games. They could care less, because I don't buy tickets. I don't go to games. Maybe the odd one here and there, but I don't go to that many hockey games anymore like I used to, because it's just not that entertaining for me, and it's just not that great. And there's a lot of teams that I don't care about. The rivalries aren't there because of free agency, and yeah, that's old man get off my lawn Brent again. But it's one of those things you wonder, like, it's a business decision. I get it, but I just wish that the business end of things would go away. And I think you're going to have a little bit of a problem here once they do decide to expand. Cause it's coming, no matter what, it's coming. They're not going to turn the owners are they're rich people like making money, right? So it's coming. The one thing that you're going to see, though, you're going to have a little bit of a head scratcher from the NHLPA saying, okay, there's all this money going to the owners, and there's all this expansion fees going to the owners. Why isn't some more of this money going to the players? Like, why aren't we getting a boost? Yes, players are making more money than they ever have, but the owners are making a real big chunk of change too. And when you got expansion fees, everything else, they're going out. The NHLPA is going to want to see their slice of the pie too. Because without players, you don't have anything. But obviously, you can have, no matter what, you're going to have more. You're going to have a player that's going to be willing to play no matter what. But the top guys, they're going to start saying, like, why isn't salary cap going up? Well, yes, it's going to add more jobs. Yes, you'll have more players that play the National Hockey League, but the players are going to want to get a bit of a piece of the pie, because you remember, like, this money's getting spread with the 30 owners, and that's it. And their businesses and everything else. The players aren't seeing one penny of this stuff. So you just wonder how long that's going to last with the owners and the players, and how that's all going to pan out when Gary Bettman signs the deal for a new team in either Quebec City or Atlanta. And Atlanta's coming. let's not kid ourselves. Atlanta's getting a team because of that TV market. They're going to try again and they'll fail again. And like that's the ridiculous. Like how bad that Thrashers disaster was last time. The building at Phillips Arena was really weird. They had the one side was all luxury suites, so just a horribly thought out idea, and it didn't work out. I don't know why they would think it would work the third time. It doesn't make sense. In Houston, I don't know if that'll work. I don't know how successful that would be. Salt Lake, I don't know. It's a minor league city to me. Yes, they have the Jazz there, but that's it. And they don't have a big college presence. It's a smaller town. I don't know. They've had minor league hockey teams there. Like the Utah Grizzlies were there for quite some time. The Salt Lake Golden Eagles were the Flames farm team back in the 80s too. So maybe like some places are just minor league cities, and that's what they are. Like they got a minor league baseball team that's highly successful, but they got the Jazz. I get it, but that's it. So I don't know if that's the wisest idea. Would it get a boost? Maybe, but there's some different revenue streams and different ways of thinking out there in Utah. So who knows if that would work? I don't know. And another team in the Toronto area, I don't know if you'll get the fan base excited because they're all Leaf fans or Senators fans, right? I don't know if another team in that area would work. I know it's worked in Chicago with two baseball teams, but they've been around forever, right? And you got two football teams in New Jersey at the same building, but they've been around forever. I don't know if adding another team in the GTA would be the best of ideas. I just don't think that would work. And to asking 20,000 plus a night or 19,000 plus a night to change their allegiance and not be wearing Leaf jerseys. Yeah, the Leafs games would sell out, and yeah, you probably get people to go to games because they can't get Leaf tickets. But how excited would the fan base get when it's all said and done with the second team in Toronto? So I think Gary, if you're listening, or anybody knows Gary who's listening to this to our show here, maybe send them a note and tell them what I think about expansion in the NHL. I think it's a terrible idea. It'll water the product down because there's not enough good players right across the board from the goaltender out. So it's one of those things. You got to look at that maybe it's just time to slow things down. Put the dollars and cents behind you. Get the product that we have now better first. Get that thing going. Get the league more competitive. Get more teams that are actually viable to being a Stanley Cup contender, and not just having a bunch of guys skating up and down the ice, looking themselves in the mirror and practicing their sellies. Because that's what league is right now. They got to get the league more competitive. Get more of a competitive. They have a competitive balance, but it's almost too balanced. There's too much parity. I guess it's not a great product. The players are faster and more skilled than ever. But the game itself is not better. And that's something the NHL's got to look at fixing before they go to any other markets that don't give a damn about the National Hockey League. There's my thoughts for today. Here's a little word from our friends over there at SeatGeek.
SeatGeek presents Boomstick Lady. SeatGeek helps her find the perfect seat so she can sit where her boomsticks make the biggest boom. Oh, okay. SeatGeek handles the tickets so fans can fan.
Thanks to our friends over there at SeatGeek for supplying us with the means to keep going with this goofy little endeavor we got going on. I'm going to talk about that in half a second. But thanks to SeatGeek very much for sponsoring the 1420 podcast and 1420 in the morning and everything else we got going on here. And use promo code 1420pod at SeatGeek.com today and save yourself $20 on your first purchase. On this day in 1989, Mario Lemieux scored his 50th goal of the season. 1 minute, 18 seconds into the game, in the Penguins 7-3 loss to Winnipeg Jets at the Winnipeg Arena in Winnipeg, Manitoba. Lemieux's 50th was assisted by Rob Brown and Bob Airy and was the second fastest to 50 goals, as it was Lemieux's 44th game of the season, only behind Wayne Gretzky, who hit the 50-goal mark in his 39th game in 1981. Lemieux also added 2 assists on the night. He would score 85 goals and had 114 assists for a whopping 199 points on the season to win the Art Ross Trophy as the NHL's leading scorer. Lemieux's onslaught on goaltenders continued in the playoffs as Lemieux had an 8-point night versus the Flyers in the Penguins' 10-7 win in Game 5 of the Patrick Division Finals. That included Lemieux getting 5 goals in that game. The Penguins would lose the series to Philadelphia in 7 games, but not for lack of trying by Lemieux, as he would score 14 points in the series, second only to Flyers star. Remember this guy, Tim Kerr, who had himself a 15-point series back in 1989, a high flying man. You wonder how many points Lemieux would have got over the years if he if he didn't, the cancer and the back problems and everything else, because he scored 600 goals. I think he had 1,100 assists and everything. Like, he was an absolute beast. Like would he have had Gretzky numbers? Close. Like, he would have been right there, but he's probably top 3, top 4 players of all time. But anyways, on this day in '89, Mario Lemieux got his 50th of the season and only the 44th game. Crazy to think that. And there it was, the Winnipeg Arena with the Queen in the background on the wall in the one end there. I never got to go there, but one of those things. My cousin played there for a short period of time when he got done his tenure with the Leafs and the Bruins. He ended up as a Winnipeg Jet, not too far from his hometown of Bertle, Manitoba. Bertle or Beulah, one of the two, I can't remember. Anyways, thank you very much once again to SeatGeek for sponsoring our show. Here's a little word from our friends over there at Righteous Felon Jerky. Righteous Felon Craft Jerky is the official jerky of Belly Up Sports. For over a decade, Righteous Felon Craft Jerky has led the American meat snack revolution by concocting delicious, adventurous, U.S.-sourced jerky recipes for uncompromising carnivores across the country. With 15 different flavors to choose from, Righteous Felon has all jerky lovers covered, and by using promo code BELLYUP, you will get 15% off your purchase at righteousfelon.com. Do your taste buds a favor today and rip into a bag of Righteous Felon jerky. All right, here's the final thoughts for this 14:20 in the morning on the 20th day of 2024. For those of you who I told these guys all the time, and it's got some sad news on Tuesday. It was. We talked about a little bit the other night with Dave there. We got some really sad news in the Belly Up family, and that we lost, a friend of everybody's. That's him. Although we don't get to meet these guys, but Cesar, he passed away in an ATV accident last weekend, and it's really it shook me. I'm not going to say a little bit. It shook me a lot, actually, because the thing about you watch podcasts or you listen to podcasts and everything else, and especially the indie ones like we do here at 1420 World Headquarters. You get to kind of think, you get to know the people who put it on. You get to know the people who are on the air and off the air, and you get to their sense of humor a little bit, and you really get the feel of who they are as people. And the more you listen to them, the more you watch them, the more of a connection that you end up having with these guys. I hope there's people out there that feel the same way when they listen to our show, and they can have a laugh with us, or they can disagree or agree with us 100%. And Cesar and the guys over at Craft Brewed Sports, Mike, Mookie, and Scott, 100% in no particular order whatsoever. Those guys, you get a feeling of what they're wanting to do. And when I first got the idea of doing 1424 beers with the sports talk and a whole lot more, what they do is pretty similar to what we're trying to accomplish here. They've been doing their show for a few years longer than us, and they have a good time. It's a great show, and it's a lot of fun. And when Cesar jumped on that show back in March of 2022 as an intern from Belly Up Sports over to Craft Brewed Sports, he fit in instantly, and he pretty much right when he came on the show is right when I started listening to their show and watching their show up on YouTube. And it was on Wednesdays, and then moved to Tuesdays or whatever it was. And it was something that I looked forward to on a every week. Deanne would be at work or doing whatever she was doing, and I would hunker down. I'd watch Craft Brewed Sports all the time. And Cesar was one of those guys who always had a smile on his face and always had a good hot take. Or if he didn't care about something, he would look disinterested, but he would find a way to make it laugh. And he had such a great bond with those guys, and it was such a great show, and it still is a great show, and I'm sure they'll carry on without Cesar. It won't be the same, and thanks to YouTube, we can still keep watching all those shows and all the laughs that Cesar provided hundreds of people all the time. It's one of those things you get a connection with these guys, and they're not. And when Cesar passed, and you got the news, it really hit home, because like if a famous podcaster or a famous sportscaster, if they passed away, you go, well, that's unfortunate. But these guys that are grinding it out week in, week out, they really put a lot of effort into it, and they're trying to find a way to maybe make a couple of bucks, or maybe make a career out of it, or maybe just have a lot of fun. And there's different people who do podcasts for different reasons. And the guys at Craft Brewed Sports, they had a lot of fun. You could tell that Mike, Scott, and Mookie, they really cared about Cesar a lot. And the show that they put on the other night was very touching, and it was very it was a good watch, but it was a hard watch. And the amount of admiration I have for those three guys to be able to go out and do that was something to behold. And it's something that really shook me a lot. And it's you think about the podcast that we put out, and you try to do something week in, week out that's going to connect with people, and I really connect with those guys, and I like to thank them for going out week in, week out, and especially this week that would have been very tough to go out and do that. And it's a connection that like I've never met the guys. I never had the opportunity of speaking with Cesar. I never had the opportunity, like me and Mike message back and forth a little bit now and then. And it's one of those things, you get a connection with these guys, and you understand what they're trying to do. And it's not just those guys, but there's other podcasters out there that we built we built friendship with over the last 3 years, that we've been on their show, they've been on our show, and you talk about Two Deuce and Sports News, and you talk about Jim at the Fan of the Van, and you talk about the other guys, you talk about Aaron at Brutally Honest, and it's the connection you have with guys that you probably never meet, but you see them on the screen, and you talk to these guys, and you know what they're grinding through it, and they're trying to find ways in their head to connect with people and get it out there. So as much as we like doing these shows, there's a reason for that we're trying to still do it, right? We're trying to maybe find a way that we can become a half-ass, I don't want to say famous, but half-ass celebrity, I guess is the way to putting it. But you have it's tough. It was really tough, and you hear about stories over at David level the playing field. There's a situation he's got with his living situation right now, whereas the landlord came in and did something, and you feel for these guys, right? And you get a connection with these guys a lot more so than you do with guys who are like, I watch the Michael K show and I watch Overdrive and I listen to those shows all the time, but you don't have that same connection. Yeah, you laugh at them and everything else, but you don't get that same connections you do with indie guys like myself and like Dave and like Jim at the Fan of the Van, who go out week in, week out. And you just when the news of Cesar passing away, that really hit home, and it really shook me up a lot. And it's not just it's hard to explain. Maybe it's something over here at Belly Up Sports, and I won that Creator of the Year award with here's the belt right there in my hand for those of you watching later on YouTube. It's time to this one's just from maybe I'll dedicate this one to Cesar and everything else, and maybe from here on in we'll call it the Cesar Award or whatever. We can maybe dedicate the yearly award at Belly Up Sports to Cesar, because he was a unique individual. He's a funny individual. He he cared about those guys over there at Craft Brewed, and that week in, week out, he did a lot of stuff that made me laugh, and I was really excited to listen to him on a weekly basis. And like I said, good thing that there is still YouTube out there, so I can go back and watch a lot of those old shows and have a laugh and think about all the goofy things that Cesar would say, and the hot takes, and the guy knew his sports. That was another thing that I was really admired about Cesar. Even at a young age, he knew his stuff. There was always a lot of the more you know things, and Cesar would Google stuff a lot, not really knowing what the other guys were talking about, because they were twice his age pretty much, right? So there were things that he would be learning on you can see his Googling away and figuring out what was going on, and a lot of stuff that made a guy laugh on a nightly basis. So thank you very much to Cesar and the guys over, especially Cesar right now, for all the laughs you provided me over the 2 years you were on the show, and for the X amount of years, I'll keep watching that show on YouTube and reminding myself of all the laughs that I had. So here's to Cesar and everything else over there at Craft Brewed Sports, and congrats to Scott, Mike, and Mookie for continuing on and getting that show going forward as you're going to keep going. And like I said, which time maybe Belly Up Sports, maybe I'll send this message out that we'll have to create a memorial award in Cesar's memory from here on in. And by the way, I'm going to put it up in our show's notes today, and I'll put it up in the comments section and everywhere else, the description of there's some merchandise being sold in Cesar's memory, that all the proceeds will go to his family for help with funeral costs and all that stuff. So make sure you go out and get a rope hat or whatever, because Cesar loved his hat. So make sure you guys go and check that out. But there's it was a tough goal for sure. And us podcasters, we stick together. We help each other out as much as we can, no matter what. And it's a tough slog sometimes. Like I'm not gonna sit here and like we come out on a daily basis or a bi-weekly basis, like me and Dave put two shows out a week. It's a slog, and sometimes you don't get the instant gratification that you want, but there's also times where you get a lot of gratification. If one person reaches out and say, hey, that was a great show, sometimes that's enough, right? Sometimes your downloads aren't where you want them to be, and sometimes things go up and down and sideways, and you get a little bit down on it. But then you remember that there's guys doing the exact same thing that you are, and they keep grinding it out, and they put together good shows, even in the worst situations, like the guys over at Craft Brewed had earlier this week. It was the worst situation you could possibly imagine, but they managed to put a show together that was not only, it was entertaining and very heartfelt. So you feel about with these guys, you grow with these guys, and you just remember that for all the podcasters out there, everybody's sticking together. We're all trying. We're all hoping to everybody that we're all hoping each other succeeds, and that's one of the great things about doing this. It's a lifelong dream of mine. I've been thinking about being a sports broadcaster for a very long time, and now I have an opportunity to do it. Now I actually have a job in sports too, right? So I got that as well. So things are going pretty good here. There's times where you get a little bit down, but then you realize, you know what? Guys have it a lot worse than I do, or there's a lot worse situations. And just because we're not getting the downloads, the views that we hope we're getting, there's still things that can be a lot worse. So that's just one of those things. It's there it is. Anyways, that's 14:20 in the morning for this Saturday afternoon. Jesus, Saturday afternoon already. Looks funny how the day gets away from me. Anyways, make sure you guys subscribe to our YouTube channel. Go over to and Belly Up Sports. Good there. Subscribe to their YouTube channel. Listen to all the great sport podcasts we got out there. Don't worry about Overdrive. Don't worry about the Michael K Show. Don't worry about Barn Burner and all those other ones. Listen to some indie podcasts every now and then, but make sure you listen to the 1420 Sports Bar podcast for Beer Sports, talking a whole lot more. And remember, it doesn't matter where you are. It's who you're with. Have a great weekend, folks, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. You just listened to the 1420 Sports Bar podcast. For Beer with Sports, talking a whole lot more. We are part of the Belly Up Media Network.